Hi, it's important to discuss these days about global economy and President Donald Trump's initiatives regarding the geography and the world economy. So let's see what he's saying today, and then we're going to comment on his statements regarding the economy.
Secretary General said it was the most incredible thing he had ever seen in a negotiation. Now, if I would have said, yes, we will, nobody would have paid. If I would have loved to say, yes, we'll protect you even if you don't pay. But that's not the way life works.
Two questions.
Like he's saying that we are going to protect you if you're going to pay us. Same as I think it's for Canada as well.
Related to each other. First, you said on your first day of office you're going to pardon January 6th defendants. Are you planning to pardon those who were charged with violent offenses?
Well, we're looking at it, and we have other people in there. And as you see, I guess 24 or 28 people came now from the FBI. That came out very quietly. Nobody reported it, but they had people in some form related to the FBI. They had 4 or 5 people that were strongly related to the FBI. We have to find out about that. We have to find out about Hezbollah. We have to find out about who exactly was in that whole thing, because people that did some bad things were not prosecuted. You know, I see it all the time, and you see it too. People that were doing some bad things weren't prosecuted, and people that didn't even walk into the building are in jail right now.
So, why I'm sharing this, because this has a lot to do with the economy, the world's economy, because the United States is a player that actually runs the economy, the IMF, World Bank, United Nations, and so many things. So, if US will be having issues with various countries like Iran, China, and in Canada, so it's not just political impact. There has to be some economical impact on the world's economy that we have to see.
So we'll be looking at the whole thing, but I'll be making major pardons. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Please.
On Jack Smith's report.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. It's good to see you again. 2 questions about Syria and the ongoing war in Gaza. About Syria, the Pentagon disclosed last month the U.S. had.
So now there is a question about the Syria and Gaza. So that will again impact the global economy when there is an unrest in the world. That, as I said yesterday, regarding the power economy and the political economy, because just the financial economy is not alone. It has to do something with the power economy and political economy. So let's see what he answers.
Has some 2,000 troops in Syria. That's almost double the number initially we were told of 900. Will you keep that troop capacity the same upon taking?
Well, I won't tell you that because that's part of a military strategy, but I will say it was Turkey. Turkey's been after that country in different names and different forms and shapes for 2,000 years. Those people that went in are from Turkey. And President Erdogan is a friend of mine. He's a guy I like, respect. I think he respects me also. He's the one that didn't go after certain people after I requested that he not. You know who I'm talking about, the Kurd.
So he's telling about Turkey as well, because U.S. has alliance with Turkey, global alliance and economical alliance. So he just recently said good relationships with Tayyip Erdogan in Turkey. So it's not just a Middle East; it's all over the world. So the foreign relations, the political relations, that they mean a lot in the global economy. So we have to see, because this is today's press conference, so we have to see how it's going to impact the economy of the world.
I don't know how long that's going to, because they're natural enemies. They hate each other. But he didn't do that yet. And he didn't do it in the past also. He started, and I said, please don't do that, and he didn't do it. So, but if you look at what happened with Syria, Russia was weakened, Iran was weakened, and he's a very smart guy. And he sent his people in there through different forms and different names, and they went in and they took over, and that's the way it is.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Do you have concerns about HTS taking control of
By the way, I
Syria?
have the envoy here. Is that in the back? It is. Standing with my son.
So he just recently talked about Russia and Turkey and Iran because there was a war going on in Syria. So he's saying that he requested the Turkish president Tayyip Erdogan to play his role in Syria to vacant. So when it comes to ceasefire in any part of the world, in region in Syria or Gaza, this has something to do like a diplomacy, backdoor diplomacy with some of the countries, asking them to uh, give them some kind of a privilege, some kind of release in sanctions, or more promises for the grant or the trade agreements. So that's how this global economy is related.
Eric is Steve Witkoff, who's just got back from the Middle East, and he's done a fantastic job. He's a great deal maker. I said, what we need there is a deal maker, because nobody makes a deal. We have people that understand where the rivers are and where the meets and bounds are, but they can't talk. They can't make deals. Steve's done a great job. I just want to thank you, Steve. You've been working endlessly for months, and he's working specifically on the hostages, trying to get them back.
Well, that was my second question. Is Hamas
Steve, come up for a second. Maybe you might want to say a couple of words.
Sir,
I didn't-
Hamas released another hostage.
I didn't know Steve was going to be here, actually.
Neither did I.
So the situation is like they're talking about the hostages, like in Gaza and that part of Palestine. So again, when there is a conflict and there is a solution and there is a ceasefire, this has a lot to do with the economy because this way some of the trade agreements are made on the basis of politics and regional peace or development. And sometimes the development, the money is given in the name of development, like U.S. aid or the NATO supplies. So in countries like, especially I would talk about the subcontinent in South Asia, having smaller economies or GDPs, that makes a lot of difference when United States or China or some of these huge countries, they promise of giving them some grant or aid or some trade agreements. That has to do a lot with the economy or the GDP of that particular country.
He's done a fantastic job, and it's a dangerous job, too, and we appreciate it. He didn't know about this kind of danger and the other deal-making he does. Now he sees a lot of big danger. Come on up, Steve.
Mr. President, can I ask you a second part of that? Hamas
Yeah,
released
just one
another
second,
hostage
please.
video.
I'm going to give you a little report on the hostages, if I can. Steve? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wow.
So this was one of the like the recently press talk of Donald Trump. So let's see Donald Trump's initiative related to the U.S. economy. If we just have a look at that, how it's going to affect the economy. So let's take a brief look at 3 months ago. There is a special talk regarding the economy, the U.S. economy in particular, and the world economy in general, so that how it really impacts the economy of the world. Because U.S. is the major player in IMF, in World Bank, and has a lots of influence on various other financial institutions.
Elect of the United States, Donald Trump, is set to inherit the world's leading economy.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
On the campaign trail, he offered many ideas for the future.
Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. We will drill, baby, drill.
In reality, President Trump has quite a great deal of discretion on how he acts, especially with a Republican Congress.
I don't think this is just going to be a magic wish list of everything that Trump wants.
So, what's in store now that Americans have cast their vote?
This is the way we have to look into the things that after the Americans they have cast the vote, what's going to happen? What's next? So let's have a look.
February 2020.
I bet most Americans under the age of 45 or 50 have never experienced inflation until this last episode. And I don't think they realize that would basically take a recession, even a depression in the United States, to restore the price level to what it was in 2019.
Managing prices in the United States is typically left to the Federal Reserve. The Fed's policies affect the cost of borrowing money, which in turn influences how likely you are to get a job or afford rent.
As we all know, there is like a federal bank or a state bank that actually monitors and that tells us about the interest rate, the loans or the money that is given by the banks to the consumers or the businesses that has certain percentage and that has to do something with the inflation and the economy control.
President Trump may look for more control there.
I made a lot of money. I was very successful, and I think I have a better instinct than, in many cases, people that would be on the Federal Reserve or the chairman.
A politicized central bank is generally associated with higher rates of inflation. And it ends up hurting the U.S. and it actually ends up benefiting the rest of the world because you essentially get capital outflow from the United States.
This is like an analysis that whatever the economy or the financial situation happens in the United States, that actually affects the world economy. It's a giant. So right now we are talking about Federal Reserves and the banking systems and the interest rate, then how that gonna affect the economy. So let's have a look.
Trump getting involved with the Fed will certainly spook people and investors to a certain extent. Wouldn't surprise me if you see, the replacement in 2026 when Powell's term as chair is up.
Trump has other tools to help Americans out financially. One idea called for leaving about 93 million Americans off the hook for at least a portion of their federal income taxes.
So this is important. Look at this. Trump tax plans could exempt 93 million Americans from income taxes. So
I think when he proposed eliminating the income tax and just having tariffs, there was sort of like an oh my gosh moment for everyone. We've seen this with Trump before.
Tariff, when we talk about tariff, it means tariff on the imports. Whatever US is importing from other countries, they're going to put tariff. And in return, they are giving exemption to income tax to 93 million Americans.
Right? He throws out this really bold idea, but then by the time it actually starts getting implemented, by the time he's talked with more people about it, you see it kind of transform.
Americans received a tax cut during Trump's first term, but that tax cut is set to expire in 2025.
I think
because whatever tax cuts were given at that time, they're going to expire this year.
Republicans pretty much across the board do want to see a lot of what was in that 2017 tax package expanded.
To pay for those cuts, Congress will have to shuffle things around. They may consider ending the tax-exempt status for municipal bonds or dial back healthcare spending without.
So what about like giving having more tariff on the imports and the tax cuts? And once you put that tax cut on the income, it means people have to pay less. So because the economies they are run by taxes, because any country's revenue comes from taxes and exports. So taxes play a major role, and of course the exports as well. So it means if the tax is being cut for 93 million Americans, it means that money has to come from where? Just the tariffs? Or we have to do this on the cost of health and education of the Americans. So let's have a look.
Cuts, it could add to the national debt.
When you saw this pass in 2017, it really did add to the deficit, and there is a chance that it could do so again.
By 2030, federal debt could amount to over 125% of gross domestic product.
So 125% of the GDP. I mean, that's it in next 5 years.
Or GDP, which is a measure of the country's entire economic output. Another option, increase economic growth by loosening regulations that impact industries like oil production, airline.
Now, how we can do, I mean, if the President Donald Trump has to gave a tax cut to the income to 93 million Americans, it means that money has to come either from the exports or from the tariff or putting more tax on somewhere else. So let's see.
Banking and tech.
Deregulatory process is something that probably will be pointed to as the most potential influence. The economy is so many things in so many places that's open to so many foreign influences that the extent to which Trump alone and his White House alone can shape that, I think, is often overstated.
So what they're talking about, that having this policy is not just the White House or the Congress or the Senate has to do. It has a lot. It has to do a lot in terms of giving that benefit to the income taxpayers. They have to do it at the cost of some other things.
Trump has also
Now,
called for
let's talk about tariffs now because he spoke about tariffs. So just to add in it, he said it's going to be 25% more tariff or the total tariff, more or less, on Canadian imports.
tariffs of 10 to 20% on imports arriving in the United States and a higher tariff on Chinese goods.
The higher the tariff, the more likely it is that the company will come into the United States and build a factory in the United States so it doesn't have to pay the tariff.
The goal of
So look, for the others it's 10 to 20%. For Chinese imports, it's more than 60%. Again, as I said before, power politics and the power economy, that has a lot to do with the financial economy. So
those tariffs is to generate revenue and bring industrial jobs back to the United States.
Ironically, this would not promote a revitalization of the industrial sector. Those sorts of things will raise the prices of all kinds of industrial inputs. And so that will make it harder to produce industrial products in the United States.
So how that actually works, if United States is importing some raw material from any country XYZ, if they're going to put tariff on it, it means there will be less imports. So if there will be less imports, probably that's going to be alarming for the industries, those who rely on the raw material.
It will also tend to push down investment.
Those tariffs could also lead to higher prices for shoppers.
So now look at this estimated increase in consumer prices from 10% tariff. For the garments, apparels, 12.5%. For the household appliances, almost 20%. And for the travel goods, it's 13%. So this is the impact that we're going to see in the near future.
The impact on different levels of household income is pretty dramatic. And, these kinds of taxes, tariff taxes, are extraordinarily regressive and hurt lowest income families the most.
The tariff policy is expected to weigh on both small and big businesses.
So it's not just the big businesses, it's going to impact small businesses, and the capacity of the small business is much lower than the capacity of the large businesses. So for them, even a little bit change in privileges or tax cuts is going to create a lot of effect. So Five Below downgraded by Bank of America on Trump tariff threat after U.S. election.
The president-elect's promise to deport undocumented people could have a far-reaching economic impact.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history.
So we have to see if that's gonna the deportation, the immigration stuff, and the sending the illegal migrants here, sending them back to their homes. Those who are doing the labor jobs, is that's gonna impact the U.S. workforce?
There's estimated 8.3 million undocumented workers in the United States right now.
So look at this number: unauthorized workers, that illegal migrants, 8.3 million, and the civilian labor force is 168.5 million.
Pull them, any substantial number of them out, it will have large negative effects in the U.S. economy.
So now look at this graph: U.S. employment effects of mass deportation. This is a projected percentage change from baseline. So if you look at it, 2024 and from 2040, it's showing you a forecast of the employment if 8.3 million deported, that is the red, and the pink one is employment if 1.3 million deported. So if you are deporting over 8 million, it's the impact is here. This is US employment effects of mass deportation, which is somewhere around 3.4%. And in case it's employment, if 1.3 million deported, it's going to be somewhere around 0.5 or so. So you can have a look in 2040 and you compare it with 2024.
If all undocumented workers were expelled, employment would fall below its baseline trend by 2028. Economic growth would decline too.
So it means there is a comparison, there's an analysis that how it's going to impact the deportation on the economy. So U.S. gross domestic product, effects of mass deportation, projected percentage change from baseline. So if you look at the graph again from 2024 to 2050, this is a forecast. So if you are, the red shows that if you're deporting a big number of migrants, and if you're deporting a little number, so it's showing it here.
Agriculture and construction would be particularly hard hit. Food prices in the United States would go up substantially, and it would substantially disrupt the housing market. They provide a reservoir of relatively low-cost labor that is a kind of lubricant to how the economy works.
So we're going to continue our discussion for a later video. This is a kind of analysis that Donald Trump's policies for tariff, for deportation, for the tax cuts, how it's going to impact the economy. You can always send me your comments.